The stars burned cold and distant beyond the viewport of the Indomitable. Captain Do-hyun Kim stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the celebration lights dance across the hulls of 100 warships. The Galactic Cooperative had won a great victory today at the Nexus Belt, and every species was celebrating. Do-hyun felt tired. His uniform hung heavy on his shoulders after 16 hours of continuous combat. The battle had been brutal. The Void Swarm had thrown thousands of their bioships at the cooperative forces, trying to break through to the inner colonies, but they had held, barely. "Captain, the Valorian flagship is hailing us," his communications officer said. "They want to congratulate us on our performance." Do-hyun nodded. "Put them through." The screen flickered. A tall alien appeared, its silver skin gleaming under the bridge lights. The Valorians were the oldest species in the cooperative. They had been traveling between stars for over 10,000 years. Humanity had only joined 15 years ago. "Captain Kim," the Valorian said. Its voice came through the translator as smooth and cold. "Your forces fought adequately today. The cooperative is pleased." Adequately. Do-hyun kept his face neutral. Human ships had destroyed over 300 swarm vessels. They had saved 2 Valorian cruisers from certain destruction. Adequately. "We did our duty," Do-hyun replied simply. The Valorian's expression did not change. "Indeed. The Council will review the battle records. Valorian High Command out." The screen went dark. Do-hyun's first officer, Lieutenant Minho Bai, made a disgusted sound. The young pilot had been flying combat missions for 12 hours straight. His flight suit was still stained with coolant from an emergency landing. "Adequately," Minho muttered. "We saved their silver hides and they say adequately." "Stand down, Lieutenant," Do-hyun said quietly. But he understood the frustration. Humanity always seemed to be proving itself to the older species. No matter how well they fought, no matter how many battles they won, the elder races treated them like children. Earth was the youngest world in the cooperative, the newest member, the smallest fleet, the shortest history among the stars. To species that measured their existence in millennia, humanity's few centuries in space meant nothing. Do-hyun dismissed his bridge crew and headed to his quarters. He needed rest, but sleep would not come easily tonight. Something felt wrong about this victory. The Void Swarm had attacked with unusual aggression. They had adapted to cooperative tactics faster than before, and they had retreated too easily at the end. The Swarm was not like other enemies. It did not negotiate. It did not retreat unless forced. It consumed. Entire worlds had been stripped clean by their bioships, populations devoured, resources absorbed into the hive mind. The Swarm had been pushing into cooperative space for 30 years, and every battle was harder than the last. On Earth, in the grand orbital station above the planet, Admiral Una Park was having similar thoughts. She stood in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the entire cooperative territory. Red zones marked swarm activity. Blue zones showed cooperative defenses. The red was growing. "Admiral," her aide said, "the Council wants a full report by morning." Una nodded. She was a practical woman, hardened by years of military service. She had fought in Earth's unification wars before humanity ever reached the stars. She understood war. She understood sacrifice, but she also understood politics, and politics in the cooperative were complicated. Humanity contributed only 5% of the total military forces. The Valorians provided 30%. The Krenth Empire another 25%. The Thessian Collective brought 20%. Smaller species made up the rest. Numbers meant power in the Council. Humanity's voice was the smallest. But humanity brought something else to the cooperative. They brought innovation. They brought adaptability. While the elder species fought with strategies 10,000 years old, humans constantly invented new tactics. While alien commanders followed rigid protocols, human officers improvised and adapted in real time. It was this quality that had won today's battle. It was also this quality that made the elder species uncomfortable. In a laboratory deep within Earth's defense complex, Dr. Hana Choi was not celebrating. She was studying. Her screens showed detailed scans of swarm bioships recovered from the battlefield. The creatures were both living and mechanical, grown rather than built. They operated through a quantum network that connected every unit to the central hive mind. Hana had been studying the swarm for 5 years. She had dissected their ships, analyzed their biology, traced their communication patterns. She was closer than anyone to understanding how they worked, but she was also the first to see the terrible truth in the data before her. The swarm was learning, not just adapting to tactics, but actually learning, getting smarter. Each battle taught them more about their enemies. They were becoming more efficient, more deadly, more coordinated. Hana picked up her communicator. "I need to speak with Admiral Park immediately." On the civilian engineering station orbiting Mars, Sora Lee was also working late. She stood before a massive holographic projection of a shield generator. The quantum shielding she had designed was now standard on all human warships. It was one of humanity's greatest contributions to the cooperative's defense technology. But Sora knew it was not enough. She had watched today's battle data. She had seen how quickly the swarm adapted to human shields. Given enough time, they would learn to break through. Everything could be broken eventually. She was designing something new, something desperate, something that might be needed if the war got worse. And the war was about to get much worse. 3 days after the victory celebration, the swarm attacked again. This time they did not strike at the outer rim. They did not probe at weak defenses. They came with overwhelming force at 3 strategic points simultaneously. The cooperative fleet scrambled to respond, but they were too slow, too spread out. The Nexus Belt, so recently defended, fell in 6 hours. 2 cooperative colony worlds went dark. Their populations, over 4 billion souls, simply vanished, consumed by the swarm. Emergency sessions were called. The Council convened aboard the Valorian flagship. Every species sent their highest commanders. Admiral Yuna Park represented humanity, along with their chief diplomat, Ambassador Gina Kang. The council chamber was a massive sphere, with each delegation suspended on platforms around the perimeter. At the center, holographic displays showed the terrifying reality. The swarm was not just attacking, they were driving toward the core systems, toward the heart of cooperative space, toward Earth. The Valorian High Commander spoke. Its voice echoed through translators in a dozen languages. "The situation is critical. Our projections show the swarm will reach the core systems within 30 standard days. We do not have the forces to defend everything." "Then we bring all fleets back," Yuna said firmly. "Consolidated defense. Make them pay for every meter." "That is not possible," the Krenth ambassador replied. The insectoid alien's mandibles clicked. "Our home systems must be protected. We cannot abandon them." "Then what do you propose?" Gina asked. She felt cold dread building in her chest. The Valorian High Commander's expression was unreadable. "We propose a strategic sacrifice. 3 worlds will be designated as buffer zones. We will evacuate what civilians we can, but the defensive fleets will withdraw. This will buy time for the core systems to prepare proper defenses." "Buffer zones," Yuna repeated slowly. "You mean sacrificial worlds? Which 3? The display changed. 3 star systems highlighted in red. Yuna's blood turned to ice. One of them was Sol. One of them was Earth. "This is unacceptable," Gina said, her voice rising. "You're condemning billions to death." "The mathematics are clear," the Valorian said coldly. 3 worlds for 44. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Earth, by assessment, has the lowest strategic value among the core systems. Yuna stood. Her face was hard as stone. "We have a treaty." The cooperative charter promises mutual defense. The charter accounts for survival scenarios, the Krenth commander said. This is survival. We must think logically. Logically, Yuna said. The word tasted like poison. You mean we're the youngest, the smallest, the most expendable? No one answered. The silence said everything. The vote was called. Humanity's single voice was overwhelmed by dozens of others. The decision was made. Earth would stand as a buffer. The cooperative fleets would withdraw. Humanity was alone. The withdrawal began at dawn. Earth's orbital defenses watched as the first alien ships powered up their jump drives. Valorian cruisers, Krenth battleships, Thessian carriers. One by one, they turned away from humanity's home system. Captain Do-hyun Kim stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching his former allies leave. His crew was silent. What could anyone say? They had fought beside these ships for years. They had bled together, died together, and now those same ships were running away. Captain, his communications officer said quietly, the Krenth flagship is hailing us. Private channel. Do-hyun nodded. Put it through. Commander Vexthor appeared on screen. The massive insectoid warrior had fought alongside Do-hyun in a dozen battles. They had shared drinks after victory. They had mourned losses together. Do-hyun, Vexthor said. Its translator made the alien's clicks and whistles into words. I am sorry. The Council's decision was wrong, but I must follow orders. I understand, Do-hyun replied. And he did. Soldiers followed orders. It was the orders themselves that were wrong. Die well, Vexthor said. It was a Krenth blessing, meant to honor warriors facing their last battle. Make it mean something. The screen went dark. Do-hyun watched the Krenth flagship turn and jump away, its drives leaving a brief flash of light. Then it was gone. All alien ships have left the system, Captain, his tactical officer reported. We're alone. Alone. 38 human warships, 3 orbital defense platforms, 4 billion people on Earth and its colonies, against a swarm that had destroyed civilizations. 23 days until the swarm arrived. On Earth, the news spread like wildfire. Riots broke out in some cities. People demanded evacuation. They screamed for their leaders to do something, but there was nowhere to run. Human colony ships were slow. They could evacuate maybe 1 million people before the swarm came. What about the other billions? Admiral Yuna Park addressed the planet. Every screen, every device carried her image. She stood in her uniform, her face hard, but her eyes blazing with determination. People of Earth, she began. By now you know the truth. The Galactic Cooperative has abandoned us. They have calculated our worth in numbers and found us expendable. They expect us to die quietly while they save themselves. She paused. Let the anger build. She needed that anger. They are wrong, Yuna continued, her voice growing stronger. They do not know humanity. They do not understand what it means to be human. We have faced extinction before. We have stood at the edge of destruction and we have survived. Not because we were the strongest, not because we were the oldest, but because we refused to surrender. Her hands gripped the podium. Earth will stand. Humanity will fight. We will show the galaxy what it means to have a spine, what it means to have courage. The swarm is coming. Let them come. We will meet them with fire and fury. And when this is over, if we survive, the galaxy will remember. They will remember that when they ran, humanity stood. The speech echoed across every continent. In the underground bunkers, people stopped panicking. In the military bases, soldiers stood straighter. In the orbital stations, engineers returned to work. Yuna had given them something precious. She had given them purpose, but purpose alone would not stop the swarm. Dr. Hana Choi worked around the clock. She barely slept, barely ate. Her laboratory was filled with swarm specimens, data streams, quantum analysis equipment. She was so close. She could feel the answer hiding in the numbers. The swarm operated through quantum entanglement. Every bioship was connected to the central hive mind through a network that ignored distance and time. Break that network, and the ships would lose coordination. They would become confused, vulnerable. But how do you break quantum entanglement? It was like trying to cut something that existed in multiple dimensions at once. "Coffee," someone said behind her. Hana turned. Sora Lee stood there holding 2 cups. The engineer looked as tired as Hana felt. "You found something?" Sora asked. "Maybe," Hana said. She took the coffee gratefully. "The swarm's network uses a specific frequency range. If I can generate a resonance pulse at exactly the right frequency, it might disrupt their quantum connection. But the pulse would need to be deployed right in the middle of their fleet. Suicide mission range." Sora nodded slowly. "How big does the device need to be?" "Cruiser-sized at minimum." "Why?" "Because I'm designing one," Sora said. She pulled up her own holographic display. It showed a weapon unlike anything Hana had seen. "I call it a resonance disruptor. I started working on it after the last battle. I had a feeling we might need something crazy." Hana stared at the design. It was brilliant. Insane, but brilliant. This could work, but whoever delivers it won't come back. "I know," Sora said quietly. "But if it saves Earth, someone will volunteer." Ambassador Gina Kang was trying diplomacy one last time. She sent messages to every cooperative world. She pleaded with the Council. She reminded them of treaties, of honor, of basic decency. No one responded. The Valorians sealed their communication channels. The Krenth claimed they were preparing their own defenses. The Thessians simply stopped answering. Every species Gina contacted had the same response: silence. She sat in her office, surrounded by unanswered messages, and wept, not for herself, not even for Earth, but for what the cooperative had become. They preached unity and mutual protection. They claimed to be better than barbarism, but when tested, they chose cowardice. Gina had believed in the cooperative. She had spent years building relationships with alien diplomats. She had genuinely thought they were friends, allies, family. She had been wrong. Lieutenant Minho Bay gathered his squadron in the briefing room. 19 pilots, the best humanity had. They had trained together for years, fought together. Now they would die together. "All right," Minho said, trying to keep his voice steady. "You all know the situation. The swarm arrives in 23 days. Our orders are simple. Hit and run. Slow them down. Give the ground defenses time to evacuate civilians to underground shelters." "How long can we hold?" one pilot asked. "Honestly, maybe a few hours against a full swarm fleet. Maybe less." The room was quiet. Then one pilot, a young woman named Borum, spoke up. "So we make those hours count." Others nodded. There was no panic, no despair, just grim determination. They were going to die, but they would die fighting. "Damn right we will," Minho said. "The aliens think we're weak, expendable. Let's show them what expendable humans can do." The days passed quickly. Earth transformed into a fortress. Every weapon was moved into position. The lunar surface became one giant gun platform. Orbital stations were armed with nuclear weapons. Even civilian ships were fitted with whatever weapons could be scrapped together. Sora Lee worked with thousands of engineers to build the resonance disruptor. They had one shot at this, one chance to turn the tide. The device was built inside the indomitable Captain Do-Hyun's ship. It would take a cruiser to deliver it, and Do-Hyun had already volunteered. "You don't have to do this," Yuna told him privately. "Yes, I do," Do-Hyun replied. "Someone has to, and I'm the best pilot humanity has for this kind of mission. My crew volunteers too. We all do." Yuna looked at the man she had known for 20 years. They had fought together in the Unification Wars. He had been at her side through every major battle since. "Your daughter is safe on Mars." "I know. I recorded messages for her. For when she's older—" Do-Hyun's voice cracked slightly. "Tell her I did what I had to. Tell her humanity stood." "I will." Dr. Hana Choi finished her calculations on day 22. The resonance disruptor was ready. The frequency was perfect. The delivery system was armed. It would work. It had to work. On day 23, the alerts began screaming. The Void Swarm had arrived at the edge of the Sol system. Sensors detected over 10,000 bioships. The swarm was so large it blotted out the stars. Their quantum network pulsed with malevolent intelligence. They had come to consume humanity's home. Every human ship powered up. Every weapon charged. Every soldier took their position. On Earth, 4 billion people moved into underground shelters. Children clutched their parents. Elders said prayers. Everyone waited. Admiral Una Park stood in the command center. Her staff surrounded her, faces pale but determined. She looked at the tactical display showing the approaching swarm. Then she looked at her people, her species, her home. "All ships," she said into the communication system. Her voice was broadcast to every human vessel. "This is Admiral Park. The enemy is here. They come to destroy us, to erase us from existence. The galaxy has abandoned us. Our allies have fled. We stand alone." She paused. "But we are not weak. We are not expendable. We are humanity. And humanity has never surrendered, not in our darkest days on Earth, not in our wars among ourselves, and not today. Today we fight. Today we show the universe what it means to be human. Engines to full, weapons hot, for Earth, for humanity, for everyone we love. For Earth!" The cry echoed back from every ship. The Void Swarm advanced. Humanity moved to meet them. The last battle was about to begin. The first wave of the Void Swarm hit humanity's outer defenses like a hammer. 3 unmanned weapon platforms exploded in seconds. The bioships moved with terrible purpose, their organic hulls absorbing fire that would destroy normal vessels. They did not scatter. They did not hesitate. They simply advanced. Lieutenant Minho Bay led his squadron into the storm. 19 fighters against thousands. The odds were impossible. That had never stopped humans before. "Delta formation," Minho commanded. "Target the big ones. Make every shot count." His fighter dove between 2 massive swarm bioships. Their surfaces rippled with strange flesh-metal hybrid armor. Weapons ports opened like mouths. Minho fired his missiles at point-blank range, then banked hard as acid projectiles sprayed past him. Behind him, 2 bioships collided, their coordination disrupted by his attack. They tangled together, thrashing. Minho's wingman, Borum, finished them with a plasma burst. "That's what I'm talking about!" Borum shouted. But for every swarm ship they killed, 10 more took its place. The mass of bioships was overwhelming. They surrounded the human fighters, cutting off escape routes, forcing them into tighter and tighter spaces. "Break and scatter," Minho ordered. "Don't let them box us in." The fighters split apart, each pilot flying their own chaotic pattern. The swarm tried to track them, but human unpredictability was hard to predict. While alien pilots flew in formation, humans improvised. While the swarm calculated optimal firing solutions, humans flew on instinct. It saved lives, for a while. 3 fighters went down in the first 10 minutes. Then 5 more. Minho watched his squadron shrink on his tactical display. Each lost signal was a friend gone forever. "All fighters, fall back to Point Delta," he ordered. "We need to regroup." On the Indomitable, Captain Do-Hyun Kim coordinated the larger defense. His cruiser was the flagship of Earth's fleet. Every human warship took orders from him. 38 ships against an army. "Concentrate fire on Sector 7, Do-Hyun commanded. "Punch a hole through their line." Human ships focused their weapons. Nuclear missiles streaked across space. Plasma cannons carved burning lines through bioships. Railguns fired projectiles at incredible speed. For a moment, the swarm line buckled. "All ships, advance through the gap," Do-hyun ordered. "Get inside their formation. They can't adapt if we're right on top of them." It was a desperate tactic. Getting close to the swarm meant you could be surrounded, but Do-hyun had studied the enemy. The swarm's quantum network needed space to calculate solutions. Up close, in the chaos of knife fight range, their coordination failed. The human fleet plunged through the gap. Bioships tried to close around them, but the humans were already firing in all directions. It was chaos. It was madness. It was working. On Earth's moon, Sora Lee watched the battle through tactical displays. She stood in the control center for the lunar defense grid. Around her, hundreds of engineers monitored massive railguns built into the moon's surface. "They're getting too close," one engineer said nervously. "If they breach the moon's orbit, we're done." "Then we don't let them breach," Sora said calmly. "Firing solution on the main swarm cluster. All guns." "That's danger close to our own ships." "Our ships know the risk. Fire." The moon shook. 20 massive railguns fired simultaneously. Projectiles the size of buildings launched at incredible velocity. They tore through space and slammed into the swarm cluster. Bioships exploded. Others were knocked spinning out of control. The devastation was incredible. "Reload and fire again," Sora ordered. "Don't stop until they're dead or we're out of ammunition." The lunar guns became Earth's hammer. Every 30 seconds, another devastating volley. The swarm tried to adapt, tried to spread out, but Sora adjusted her targeting faster than they could move. This was humanity's advantage. Not strength, not numbers, but the ability to think, to adapt, to change tactics in real time. The swarm had millions of ships, but they all thought with one mind. Humanity had only thousands of soldiers, but every single one could think for themselves. Dr. Hana Choi monitored the swarm's quantum network from her lab on Earth. She tracked the data streams, watching how the hive mind coordinated its forces. Beautiful in a terrible way, perfect efficiency, perfect unity, and that was its weakness. "Admiral," Hana said into her communicator, "the swarm is adapting faster than projected. They're learning our tactics in real time. We need to deploy the resonance disruptor now, or they'll adapt to that too." Admiral Yuna Park's face appeared on her screen. Behind the Admiral, Hana could see the command center in chaos. Alarms blaring, people shouting. The battle was not going well. "How long do we have?" Yuna asked. "Hours, maybe less. The longer we wait, the less chance it will work." Yuna nodded. "Captain Kim, you're cleared for your mission. Godspeed." On the Indomitable, Do-hyun received the order. This was it. His last mission, his last flight. He looked around his bridge. His crew all looked back at him. Every single person had volunteered for this. They all knew they would not return. "All hands, this is the captain," Do-hyun said over the ship intercom. "We've been cleared for our final mission. We're going to take this ship straight into the heart of the swarm. We're going to deploy Dr. Choi's weapon, and we're going to save Earth." He paused. "It's been an honor serving with all of you. When people tell stories about today, they'll remember that humanity stood, that we did not run, that we did not surrender. Ready?" "Ready, Captain," his crew shouted back. The Indomitable broke away from the main fleet. Its engines burned at maximum power, driving straight toward the center of the swarm formation. Bioships moved to intercept, but human fighters ran interference. Minho's squadron, down to just 8 ships now, flew alongside the Indomitable. "We'll get you there, Captain," Minho transmitted. "Count on it." Bioships swarmed around them. Acid projectiles scored the Indomitable's hull. Plasma bursts burned through armor. But the cruiser kept going. Its shields, designed by Sora Lee years ago, held against impossible damage. One by one, Minho's fighters fell. Borum went down, protecting the Indomitable's flank. 2 more collided with bioships in suicide rams. Each sacrifice bought seconds. Each second brought them closer to the target. 5,000 meters to optimal deployment range, the Indomitable's navigator reported. 4,000. 3,000. The ship shuddered. Major systems were failing. Half the crew was dead, but they were close enough. "Deploy the resonance disruptor," Do-Yun ordered. The weapon activated. It was not a bomb, not a blast. It was a pulse of carefully tuned quantum energy that spread out from the Indomitable in all directions. Invisible, unblockable. It touched every swarm ship within 10,000 kilometers. And their quantum network shattered. For one brief moment, the swarm's perfect coordination failed. Thousands of bioships suddenly lost contact with the hive mind. They drifted, confused, their movements becoming random and chaotic. "Now!" Admiral Yuna screamed into her communicator. "All ships, all guns, fire everything!" The human fleet unleashed hell. Ships that had been holding back reserves fired every weapon. The lunar guns fired continuously. Nuclear mines that had been drifting in space detonated. Everything humanity had built, every weapon, every missile, every bullet, was thrown at the confused swarm. Bioships exploded by the hundreds, then by the thousands. The swarm tried to re-establish their network, tried to restore coordination, but the resonance pulse had done its work too well. Their quantum connection was broken. On the Indomitable, Captain Do-Yun Kim watched his tactical display as the swarm fleet fell apart. It was working. Earth would survive. His crew had succeeded. "Captain," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving a transmission from the swarm. It's trying to communicate." "What?" Do-Yun had never heard of the swarm communicating before. Static filled the speakers. Then a voice, terrible and ancient, spoke through the translator. "You break network. Impossible. You are young species. Weak. How?" Do-Yun smiled. "You want to know how? Because we're not like you. We don't think with one mind. Every human is different. Every human fights their own way. You can't predict chaos. You can't calculate courage." The swarm voice went silent for a moment. Then, "You have destroyed us. This fleet, dead. But we are many. We will return. Let them come," Do-Yun said. "Humanity will be waiting." The Indomitable's hull finally gave way. Explosions tore through the ship. Do-Yun had just enough time to see Earth on his viewport, beautiful and whole, before everything went white. Lieutenant Minho Bay, the last survivor of his squadron, watched the Indomitable explode. He felt tears on his face, but there was no time to mourn. The swarm fleet was broken but not dead. Human ships were still fighting, still dying. "All remaining fighters," he transmitted, "continue the attack. Make the captain's sacrifice count." The battle raged for 19 more hours, brutal, bloody. But slowly the tide turned. The swarm could not coordinate without their network. Human tactics, so chaotic and unpredictable, became devastating against confused enemies. Ship by ship, the swarm fleet was destroyed. When the last bioship finally died, Earth's defenders were exhausted. Over half the fleet was gone, thousands dead. But they had won. Against all odds, humanity had survived. The silence after battle was strange. Admiral Yuna Park stood in the command center, surrounded by exhausted staff members. For 19 hours, the room had been filled with shouting, alarms, desperate orders. Now there was only the quiet hum of damaged systems and the sound of people breathing hard. "Status report," Yuna said. Her voice was hoarse from hours of giving commands. "All swarm ships destroyed or disabled, Admiral," her tactical officer reported. "No enemy activity detected in the system." "Our losses?" The officer hesitated. 23 ships destroyed, 11 heavily damaged. Estimated casualties at 42% across all forces. Civilian casualties minimal due to shelter protocols. 42%. Nearly half of Earth's defenders were gone, but Earth itself still stood. 4 billion people still lived. The impossible had happened. "Get me communication links to all surviving ships," Yuna ordered, "and someone find out if Lieutenant Bay survived." On what was left of his fighter, Minho Bai drifted near Earth's moon. His ship had lost main power 3 hours ago. Life support was failing. He was cold and getting colder. But he was alive. His squadron was gone. All of them except him. "This is Bay," he transmitted weakly. "Anyone receiving?" Static answered him. Then a voice, blessed and clear. "Lieutenant Bay, this is Lunar Control. We have your position. Recovery ship is on the way. Hold on." "Copy that," Minho said. He closed his eyes. Captain Do-Yun was dead. Boram was dead. So many others were dead. But Earth lived. It was enough. Dr. Hana Choi could not stop shaking. She sat in her laboratory staring at screens that showed the aftermath of the battle. The resonance disruptor had worked. Her calculations had been perfect. But the cost had been so high. Captain Do-Yun and his entire crew were gone. Hundreds of other people dead, all because of a weapon she had designed. "Dr. Choi?" Someone stood in her doorway. It was Sora Lee, the engineer. She looked as exhausted as Hana felt. "You saved us. You know that, right?" "I killed Captain Kim," Hana said quietly. "No, the swarm killed Captain Kim. You gave him a weapon that saved 4 billion lives." Sora walked over and sat down beside her. "He volunteered. They all did. They knew what they were doing." "Does that make it easier?" "No," Sora admitted, "but it makes it necessary. Sometimes the only way to save everything is for someone to sacrifice everything." Across Earth, people emerged from shelters. They looked up at the sky, expecting death. Instead, they saw human ships on patrol, damaged, limping, but victorious. Word spread quickly. Earth had survived. Humanity had won. In the streets, people cried, they celebrated, they mourned, all at the same time. It was the strangest victory in human history. They had been abandoned by their allies, left to die, but they had refused to die. Ambassador Gina Kang sat in her office, watching the news feeds. Her communicator was filling with messages now. Messages from the Galactic Cooperative, from the Valorians, from the Krenth, from every species that had run away. They wanted to talk now. Of course they did. Gina did not answer any of them. Not yet. Let them wait. Let them worry. Let them wonder if humanity would even speak to them again. 3 days after the battle, the first alien ship returned to the Sol system. It was a Valorian scout, approaching carefully. They probably expected to find ruins, dead worlds, maybe a few swarm ships picking through debris. Instead, they found a very angry Admiral Yuna Park. "You have 1 minute to explain why I should not blow your ship out of my space," Yuna said coldly when they established communication. The Valorian captain looked uncomfortable. As much as their silver faces could show emotion, they looked ashamed. "Admiral Park, we have come to assess the situation and offer assistance." "Assistance," Yuna repeated. "You mean the assistance you refused to give when we needed it? When you voted to sacrifice us? That assistance?" "The Council made a strategic decision based on probabilities and resource allocation," the Valorian said stiffly. "The Council was wrong," Yuna said. "You calculated our worth by our age and our fleet size. You never calculated our will, our determination, our refusal to accept death quietly. Admiral, we had no way of knowing you could defeat a swarm vanguard fleet alone. No species has ever accomplished such a feat." "Maybe that tells you something about humanity," Yuna said. "We don't know when to quit. We don't accept impossible odds." We fight until there is nothing left to fight with. And then we fight with our bare hands if we have to. The Valorian was quiet for a moment. What do you want from us, Admiral? Right now? Nothing. You made your choice. Now we make ours. Leave our system. When we are ready to talk, we will contact you. Not before. The Valorian ship left without further argument. But they were just the first. Over the next week, ships from every cooperative species arrived at the edge of the Sol system. Each one asked permission to enter. Each one wanted to offer help, to rebuild relationships, to apologize. Yuna turned them all away. Humanity needed time. Time to recover. Time to bury their dead. Time to rebuild. And time to decide what came next. Lieutenant Minho Bay recovered in a medical facility on Earth. His body was healing, but his mind struggled. He kept seeing his squadron in his dreams, kept hearing their voices, kept watching them die over and over. "Lieutenant?" A voice pulled him from his thoughts. Minho looked up. A young woman stood there in civilian clothes. She looked familiar. "Do I know you?" "I'm Hyejin," she said. "Captain Do-hyun Kim's daughter." Minho's breath caught. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Your father was a hero. He saved us all." "I know," Hyejin said softly. "He recorded messages for me. He told me he was going to do something important. He told me to be proud." Tears rolled down her face. "I am proud, but I miss him." "So do I," Minho said. "He was the best captain I ever knew." Hyejin wiped her eyes. "He asked me to give you something if he didn't come back." She held out a data chip. "It's marked for the pilot who never gives up." Minho took the chip with shaking hands. Later, alone, he would play it. He would hear Captain Do-hyun's voice one last time, telling him to keep flying, to keep fighting, to never let the sacrifice be forgotten. But for now, he just nodded to Hyejin. Two people who had lost someone they loved. Two people who would carry that loss forever. Dr. Hana Choi was called to a meeting at Earth's command center. When she arrived, she found Admiral Yuna Park and several military commanders waiting. "Doctor," Yuna said, "we need to discuss the swarm's network." Hana nodded. "I've been analyzing the data from the battle. The resonance disruptor didn't just disable their network. It caused a cascade failure throughout their entire quantum communication system." "Explain," one commander said. "The swarm's hive mind spans light years through quantum entanglement. When we broke their network here, the disruption spread. Like ripples in water, every swarm ship connected to this fleet lost coordination, even ships that were light years away." The room went very quiet. "How many ships?" Yuna asked. "Millions," Hana said. "The entire swarm network was disrupted. It won't be permanent. They'll rebuild their network eventually. But right now, every swarm fleet in the galaxy is confused and disorganized." "The cooperative could strike now," Yuna said slowly. "While the swarm is vulnerable." "If they have the courage," Hana replied. Sora Lee was awarded Earth's highest honor for her work, designing the quantum shields and assisting with the resonance disruptor. She accepted the medal in a ceremony attended by millions. "I did not do this alone," Sora said when asked to speak. "Every engineer who helped build the lunar defenses, every scientist who worked on the disruptor, every soldier who fought in space. We all did this together. That is humanity's real strength. Not our weapons, not our ships, our unity." The crowd cheered. For a brief moment, Earth was not divided by nation or culture or belief. They were simply human, united by survival, united by pride. Ambassador Gina Kang finally agreed to meet with cooperative representatives. They gathered on a neutral space station, carefully chosen to avoid any appearance of Earth submitting to the cooperative. The Valorian High Commander was there. So was the Krenth ambassador, the Thessian representative, all the species that had voted to abandon Earth. "Admiral Park has asked me to deliver humanity's position," Gina said formally. "You are not our allies. You abandoned us. You voted for our extinction. You calculated that we were expendable. We made a difficult decision in an impossible situation," the Valorian said. "You made a cowardly decision," Gina replied sharply, "but it taught us something valuable. It taught us that we cannot rely on anyone but ourselves. It taught us that promises mean nothing when tested. It taught us that humanity stands alone." "Surely there is a path forward," the Krenth ambassador said. "A way to rebuild trust." "Perhaps," Gina said, "but it will be on humanity's terms. We will not rejoin the cooperative as junior members. We will not accept a minor voice in your council. We will not allow our security to depend on your promises again." "What do you want?" the Thessian asked. Gina smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Everything. We want full partnership, equal voice, equal respect. We want the cooperative rebuilt with humanity at its core. We want a charter that can never again allow what you did to us." "That is impossible," the Valorian said. "The cooperative has existed for 10,000 years under our leadership." "Then the cooperative will end," Gina said calmly, "and humanity will stand alone. We already proved we can. The question is, can you? Because the swarm is still out there. Weakened, yes, but not destroyed. And next time, you might be the ones who need help." The room fell silent. Every alien representative knew she was right. The swarm would recover. And when they did, the cooperative would need humanity's tactics, humanity's courage, humanity's refusal to surrender. The balance of power had shifted. Earth had survived, and in surviving, humanity had become something new, not the youngest species, not the weakest, but the species that would not die. 2 months after the battle, Earth's reconstruction was well underway. Orbital stations were being rebuilt. Ships were being repaired. The scars of war were slowly healing, but some scars would never fully heal. Admiral Una Park stood at the memorial on Earth's moon. It was a simple structure made of metal salvaged from destroyed human ships. Thousands of names were carved into its surface, every person who died defending Earth. At the top, in larger letters, was one name that represented all the others, Captain Do-hyun Kim. The memorial's inscription read, "When abandoned, we stood. When challenged, we conquered. When alone, we were never alone. We had each other." Una traced her fingers over Do-hyun's name. They had been friends for 30 years, had fought in countless battles together. She had sent him on his final mission, knowing he would not return. It was the hardest order she ever gave. "Admiral!" a voice said behind her. Una turned. A young woman in military uniform stood there. She looked so much like Do-hyun that Una's heart ached. "Hyejin," Una said, "I didn't know you enlisted." "Last week," Hyejin Kim said. "I want to be a pilot, like my father. I want to defend Earth." "Your father would be proud," Una said, "but he would also want you to be safe." "Safe?" Hyejin smiled sadly. "Earth is safe because people like my father refused to be safe, because they chose to fight even when everyone said it was hopeless. I want to honor that. I want to continue what he started." Una nodded. This was what humanity had become. A species that understood sacrifice, that understood courage, that would never again allow themselves to be called expendable. "Come with me," Una said. "There is something you should see." She led Hyejin to a command center built into the lunar base. Inside, tactical displays showed the entire Sol system, but they also showed something else: ships, hundreds of ships, new construction, built in the months since the battle. "After we won, construction efforts tripled," Una explained. "Every nation on Earth contributed. Every colony sent resources. We are building the largest defense fleet in human history." "Why so many?" Hyejin asked. Because we will never be caught unprepared again, Yuna said firmly. Because next time, we will not just defend. We will be able to help others. We will be strong enough that no one can ignore us. No one can sacrifice us. No one can call us expendable. Across the Sol system, humanity's industrial capacity had exploded. Shipyards worked around the clock. New weapons were designed based on the lessons learned from the swarm battle. Dr. Hana Choi led research teams developing better disruptor technology. Sora Lee designed next-generation shields and weapons. Lieutenant Minho Bay, recovered from his injuries, trained new pilots. He taught them the tactics that had saved Earth: hit and run, unpredictability, chaos as a weapon. But he also taught them something else. You are not just pilots, he told his students. You are guardians. Every time you fly, you carry the memory of everyone who died protecting Earth. You carry their sacrifice. You honor it by being the best you can be. One student raised their hand. Sir, what if we face the swarm again? Then we do what we did before, Minho said. We fight. We adapt. We refuse to die. The swarm thinks in one pattern. We think in millions. That is our advantage. That will always be our advantage. Ambassador Gina Kang was negotiating the new cooperative charter. The Valorians had finally agreed to meet humanity's demands: full partnership, equal voice, reformed leadership structure. The charter that had allowed Earth to be sacrificed was being completely rewritten. This is a historic moment, the Valorian High Commander said during the signing ceremony. The cooperative is reborn with humanity as a founding partner. Gina signed the document. Then she looked at the assembled alien diplomats. Let this be clear to everyone. Humanity joined the cooperative once in good faith. We were betrayed. We are joining again, but this time with our eyes open. We will be partners. We will defend our allies. But we will never again allow ourselves to be sacrificed for convenience. The cooperative accepts these terms, the Valorian said. Good, Gina replied, because the swarm is still out there, weakened but not destroyed. When they return, you will need us. You will need human tactics, human courage, human stubbornness. And we will be there, not because we have to be, but because we choose to be. The galaxy had changed. Reports came in from across cooperative space. The swarm was indeed in retreat. The cascade failure in their quantum network had affected their entire species. Hundreds of swarm fleets were disorganized and vulnerable. Cooperative forces, emboldened by humanity's victory, struck at these weakened fleets. Worlds that had been marked for sacrifice were saved. Populations that expected death found hope instead. And in every battle, human advisors were present, teaching, leading, showing the elder species how to fight with adaptation rather than just with force. Humanity became the cooperative's strategic heart, not because they had the most ships, not because they had the oldest civilization, but because they had proven something fundamental. They had proven that will could overcome odds, that courage could defeat calculation, that sometimes the youngest voice was the wisest. Dr. Hana Choi published her research on the swarm's quantum network. Scientists across the galaxy studied it. New weapons were developed. New tactics emerged. The swarm, which had seemed unstoppable for 30 years, suddenly faced an enemy that understood their weakness. It's strange, Hana said to Sora one day. We were the youngest species, the least experienced, but we were the ones who figured out how to hurt them. Maybe that's because we were young, Sora replied. The elder species fought the same way for thousands of years. We had to innovate. We had no choice. Sometimes having no experience means having no limits. 6 months after the battle, a new threat emerged at the edge of cooperative space. Not the swarm this time, but a different hostile force. The Cooperative Council met to discuss the response. We need a task force, the Krenth commander said. Who will lead it? Every representative looked at the human delegation. Admiral Una Park stood. She was older now, more scarred, but her eyes still burned with determination. Humanity will lead, Una said, but not alone. We learned what it means to stand alone. Now we will teach you what it means to stand together. Every species contributes, every voice is heard. We go as partners or not at all. The council agreed unanimously. On Earth, Una addressed her people one last time before leaving with the task force. When we faced extinction, the galaxy abandoned us. We survived anyway. We proved that humanity is not weak, not expendable, not easily broken. Now we go to help others, to defend those who cannot defend themselves, to show the galaxy what it means to have allies who do not run when things get hard. The crowd cheered. Una looked out at them, millions of faces, 4 billion people who should have died but lived instead. They had rebuilt, they had thrived, they had become something new. Lieutenant Minho Bay commanded a squadron on Una's flagship. He was no longer the young hotshot pilot. He was a veteran now, a teacher, a leader. As his ship prepared to jump away from Earth, he recorded a message. "To future generations," he said, "remember what happened here. Remember that we were abandoned. Remember that we stood anyway. Remember that courage is not the absence of fear. It is fighting even when you are afraid, even when the odds are impossible, even when everyone says you will fail. We did not fail. We will never fail. Because we are human, and humans do not know how to quit." The fleet jumped into hyperspace, carrying humanity's banner into the galaxy. They were no longer junior members, no longer the youngest species. They were equals. They were defenders. They were the ones others called when hope seemed lost. On Earth's moon, the memorial stood silent under the stars. New names would be added over time, more sacrifices, more heroes. But Captain Do-Hyun Kim's name would always be at the top. The man who gave everything so humanity could survive. And humanity did survive. More than survive. They thrived. They grew. They became the species that others looked to for inspiration. The species that proved courage was not about size or age or power. It was about refusing to surrender, about standing tall even when everything tried to break you. Years later, when Hye-jin Kim became a captain herself, commanding her own ship, she visited the memorial. She stood where her father had once stood, where he had made the choice to sacrifice himself. "I understand now," she whispered to his name carved in metal. "You did not die because you were expendable. You died because Earth was invaluable, because humanity was worth saving, because sometimes one person's sacrifice can change everything." She saluted. Then she returned to her ship, ready to defend the galaxy that had once abandoned Earth, ready to prove again and again that humanity stood tall and unbroken. The memorial's inscription remained unchanged, a promise, a reminder, a warning to anyone who might forget. When abandoned, we stood. When challenged, we conquered. When alone, we were never alone. We had each other. This was humanity's truth. This was their legacy. When their allies abandoned them, when the galaxy calculated their worth as zero, when death seemed certain, humanity stood tall and unbroken, and they would stand forever. Not because they were the strongest, not because they were the oldest, but because they were human, and humans never, ever gave up. The galaxy learned this lesson well. In the centuries that followed, no species would ever again underestimate humanity. No council would ever vote to sacrifice them. No enemy would ever expect them to surrender quietly, because humanity had proven something fundamental. Something that changed the galaxy forever. Some species measured their worth in years, some in power, some in territory. But humanity measured their worth in one simple truth. They stood when others ran. They fought when others surrendered. They survived when others said survival was impossible. And that made all the difference. The story of Earth's stand became legend. Children across the galaxy heard tales of the humans who refused to die, of the captain who sacrificed everything, of the admiral who never backed down, of the species that was written off as expendable but proved they were invaluable. Humanity stood tall and unbroken, and they would stand forever.